We'll go through the decks by nation. All of the decks have topped in the recent WGP that took place in Nagoya. All of the new decks were represented except for Koti Blaze, Sacrifice Glass, and Shinomiya Runa from V-Spoke. First we have is Shojodoji. We actually have two lists. One from Block A, which got 6th place. No more old Shojodoji. And still running the Precedence, the multi-attacker, and this unit that you can guard from Bind Zone. Both of these cards will be reprinted in Festival Booster 2024. And running 4 of the new stealth units. And if you don't know the skill, it counts as the old Shojodoji. Energy Blast 3, you bind 3 stealth cards from your soul, and you can bind 2 of your opponent's rear guards, and your opponent chooses a card from their hand and binds it. But at the end of the turn, your opponent puts it back to their hand. But you have a unit that can put cards in the bind zone to drop or bottom of the deck. And then on attack or is attacked, you can put 2 rear guards into soul, and you can choose up to 2 cards with stealth in their card names from your bind zone and call them each to a front and back row rear guard circle. And if it is your opponent's battle phase, you can guard with them instead. Then the new support is Ogijishi. On place to cut top 5, you add a stealth card to soul. And when it's put into soul from rear guard circle during your battle phase CB1, you choose 2 face up cards in your opponent's bind zone and put them into drop. And stealth units in your front row get +5 until end of turn. Then you have Kinran. At the end of the battle, this unit boosted. You put 2 rear guards with stealth in their card names in the same column as this unit into soul, and you get a grade 2 or greater card with stealth in its card name from drop and add it to hand. So actually no Elementaria, since you can search PGs with Aizawa. Then the next list is from Block B, which got 7th place. Pretty much very similar list. You have 4 President, only 3 of the multi-attacker. This gives you your 5th attack, and 4 Ogijishi, 4, and this time 3. And running the new Regales piece, that's a PR, which is Union the Sky, CB1 or Energy Blast 3, draw a card, remove this card, and choose one of your vanguards, and it gets +5. So it's a 15,000 shield, but if you bind a card with the same name as your vanguard from soul or drop, it becomes 25,000. And when this card is discarded from hand while riding from the right deck, CB1 or Energy Blast 3, draw 1, and remove this card. So very flexible or versatile Blitz order. Next deck we have is the new Venus Luquier. We only have 1 list, but their team got 3rd place in Block A. You only need 2 since you already have Toge, who can search a grade 3 and put it into soul for you. You can target this or this. This is the new grade 3. It's also a beater and puts a card from drop into soul. Still running, of course, the 4 dragons. 4 Bubetsu for the multi-attacks, since Venus Luquier's put the soul ability is now on attack. And running the new Elementaria. So if you don't know, the skill of the new Luquier is, if you have the old Luquier in soul, it gets +5, and if your opponent is at grade 3, your front row gets the +5 instead. And then Energy Blast 3, put a card from hand to soul, choose any number of grade 3 or less units cards, each with different grades from soul, and call them to rear. And on attack, put 2 rear guards into soul, draw a card, and this gets +5. And if your opponent's at grade 3, it gets a crit. And then the new dragon is Showered Applause Dragon. On place, you put a card from drop, and you can put it into soul. Then during your turn, if your unit was placed on rear from soul, this gets +5, and if your opponent's vanguard is grade 3, it gets +10 instead. So it's a 23k beater. So more beaters for you. And that's pretty much it for Luquier. Next up we have is Brandgate. We have Arkhite and Daiyusha. Brandgate actually had the most decks in top 16 if you're only counting the new decks. So for Arkhite, it replaces the old one in the ride line, running 4 of the new grade 3 monster and also the grade 2 monster, and also 4 of the generics from set 2 and 2 cyclers. If you don't know, Arkhite's skill is Energy Blast 2, you put 3 monster cards from your drop to order zone, and then when your rear guard with monster in its card name is placed, put a card with the same card name as that unit from order zone into drop, and that unit gets +10. So the +10 is still there. And on attack, CB1, choose up to 2 monster cards from your order zone and call them to rear. So 5 attacks. This going first is deadly, and you don't put the monsters back to deck anymore, so so it doesn't counter the filter from the research order. Then Light Ray Monster Revealis on place by your Arkhite Vanguard. It gets, when this unit attacks CB1, choose one of your opponent's vanguards and it gets +5. So the -5 is awkward, so since you only get it after your Arkhite attacks, so you don't get to maximize the value out of the -5. But if your opponent's vanguard is grade 3 or greater, it gets +10 and a crit. So it's like Obscudite, since it also cannot be chosen by your opponent's card effects, but it doesn't have the shield. Then we have Lerangara. When it attacks a grade 3 vanguard, it gets +5, and at the end of the battle it attacked, you retire it and you draw 1. So this list is 11th place in Block B. This one, Block B, 12th place. Pretty much similar lists. They run the PR, but this one's running 4-way Veloz instead in the Boba Mines, and also the monster from set 11. Then 13th place in Block A, 4 PRs. This guy's running the grade 2 as well, same as the first list, and running this grade 1 for Boba Mine. Then 14th place in Block A, still the PR. So what these lists have in common is, of course, 4 of this, 4 of the PR, 4 of the new grade 2, and a lot of them are running this grade 1 and Boba Mine. And I guess half runs this. And that's it for Arkhite. Next up we have is Daiyusha. We also have 4 lists for Daiyusha. So same as Arkhite. First one is 3rd place from Block B. 4 of the Die Lady. 4 of the Dual Nation generic from Festival Collection 2024. You look at the top cards of your deck, equal to the amount of set orders +1, and then you put it to Soul, and then CB1 you can add a grade 2 or greater card from Soul or a set order from Soul and add it to your hand. Running 3 of the Cyclers, 3 of the Boba Mine PR that are 4 decks that uses the base. Pretty much a 10k Boba Mine. Only 2 of the Die Battler, which allows you to Superior Ride when you go second, and then the grade 1 generic. So the usual skill is on attack CB1 draw. If your opponent is grade 3, you can choose any number of your dimensional robo units with different card names, and they get +5. And at the end of the battle, this attacked, put a card from hand to Soul, stand it, gets drive -2. But if your Binzo does not have Goyusha and you Persona Road this turn, bind the Goyusha from Soul and this gets +1 drive. So it's like a pseudo divine skill. Die Lady, on place, CB1 you search your deck for a base card, add it to hand, and on attack, when it attacks a grade 3 or greater unit and your order zone has 2 or more bases, it gets +10. So it's 20k attacker. Then Die Battles allows you to Superior Ride when your opponent goes first or is at grade 2 or greater. Then the second list we have is 4th place from Block B again. Much same stuff, still running the generic, but only 3. And then this is the 18k. I think 18k by it's 18k by itself. The condition was pretty easy, I'm pretty sure. And 3 of the base Boba Mine. And running 2 of Die Dragon and 3 of this. The 2 of the Blitz order that gets +10k for each rest order. Then this guy's running 4 Cycler and this one as well, 4 of the Dual Nation generic, 3 and Gratias. So far all of them are using Gratias, and 2 for, so pretty much almost same lists except for this one running 4 of the set 2 generic and not running the Cold Dual Nation and Cycler. And yep, all running fronts except for this guy, except for the first list. So the third list is Block A 8th place, and the fourth list is Block A 13th place. The next deck we have is Undercover. We have Shadow Paladin-esque units. So this deck revolves around Undercover gauges. You're going to put units face down in your set orders, and you can call them out. So this guy's running 4 of the new Obscudite, 4 of this Tiger, which bounces back to hand and also counts as a 5000 shield if you put back an Undercover gauge. This grade 3 of this grade 3, it's an 18k, and it cannot be retired by your opponent's card effects. And your ride line searches for the set order, so you'll have at least 2 per game. And this is Mordalion. During your turn, if your order zone has 3 or more of Monitored Tryst, all of your Undercover units get +5. Monitored Tryst is the set order. It can be played from drop, and when put into the order zone, you can look at top 7 and choose up to 1 from among them and put it face down as an Undercover gauge. Energy Blast 2, look at the top 7 cards of your deck and choose up to the same number of cards as the number of Monitored Tryst, so the set order, without any Undercover gauges in your order zone, and put 1 face down as an Undercover gauge on each Monitored Tryst without the gauges. And on attack, CB1, choose up to 2 Undercover cards from your Undercover gauge and call them to each to rear guard in the same column. So you have 1 extra attack, and then Obscudite gives you your another attack, so you'll have 5 attacks. This card is an Undercover gauge, so +1 you call it to back row center rear guard. And if you have a grade 3, and then this unit can attack from the back row center column and gets +10. And on attack from the back row center column, and your opponent is at grade 3 and no drive checks were performed for the battle, your rear guard attack this turn, so +1, and this unit performs drive checks and gets drive -1. So you got 3 drives in total for the turn. Pretty good. Then you have Deira. On place, you can CB1, look at top 5 cards of your deck, choose up to 1 card with Undercover in its card name or Shadow Paladin for its clan. Reveal it and add it to hand. So you can get the PGs from the Luquier Stride deck set. So you can search them out. So that's why this guy's not running Elementaria. Running 4 of the Shadow Paladin PGs. And on attack, so +1 gets +10. So it's a 20k attacker. Really good. I think this deck has a lot of potential to be in the top decks if it gets more support. The next deck we have is Stauhirhaja. So we have 2 lists, both from Block B. The first one got 6th place and the other one, their team got 9th place. Both decks have some differences. So this deck messes with your opponent by reducing their drive by 1 and also reducing their Vanguard's power by 3000 power. And this deck can do up to 5 attacks, running 2 of the grade 3, 4 of the Searcher, and the new Dual Nation generic from Festcall. To on-play CB1, look at the top part of your deck, and you may leave it on top or discard it. And then you can add a normal order from your drop to your hand or call a grade 2 or greater from your drop. Really good, since you can add back normal orders and even get units that you may need. Running 4 of the Cycler, 4 of the new grade 1, a cat, 2 of the Prize Trident, and then 3 of the Scripture orders. Then we'll look at the skill first and then look at the other list. So Stauhirhaja, during your turn, if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 and you play the Scripture order this turn, your front row gets +5. And if you play a normal order, if your opponent is at grade 3, you can play an additional Scripture order. So you want to play both orders at the same turn. And on attack, CB1, choose 1 of your rear guards. For each Scripture order you play this turn, stand it. You can do 5 attacks if your opponent is at grade 3. Then the first order is non-selfness. You choose a grade 3 or less card from your drop, call it to rear, and it gets +5. And if your opponent is at grade 3, when that unit stand, it gets a crit. Then All Suffering, you minus your opponent's Vanguard's power by 3000 until the end of their turn. So even in their turn, their Vanguard still has the minus power. And if you play the Scripture order this turn, so +2, you draw, and your opponent's Vanguard gets minus drive. Then the triple rare grade 1, on place, Energy Blast 3, choose an order card without Regalis piece from a drop and add it to hand, and choose a grade 1 or less unit from drop and call it to rear. And gets +2, which is big since your opponent will be at 10,000, so you'll have magic numbers even if you're attacking with grade 2s. This guy is also running the Blitz Order Regalis piece, the new one. Pretty much it's a 10,000 shield, and then from drop you can remove it to choose one of your units being attacked, and it gets +5 until end of battle for each grade of that unit. So 10,000 shield, and then most likely 15 to 20,000 shield. That gets really big if you use it on Grifo. Then the next list, you're still running 4 of this, and 4 of the Cycler, and 4 of this Dual Nation Lady and Dragon. 4 of this grade 2 from set 13. Pretty much this can reach 25,000. And then this one for the soul and counter charge. The grade 1 on boost, you can put it into soul or attack, put it into soul, and you can look at top 7 for your scripture orders. Then this guy's running the new Elementaria and the Regalis piece PR. And only 3 of the scripture. This is the non-selfness scripture, and 2 of the minus scripture. Next deck we have is Aizawa Ema. In block A, their team got 11th place, running the full Vispo build. If you're planning to play Vispo, you have to choose either the pure Vispo build or their nation. This player just opted to run 4 of the grade 2s and a bunch of the grade 1s from all the other Vispo decks. So pretty much Ema is a restanding Vanguard, and it gets a crit if you have 10 or more bind. And then the grade 2s call out the specific grade 1s, and most of them, after they attack while getting boosted by their counterpart, you put them to soul and you can activate a skill. Running 3 of the orders, you look at top 5 and add 1 Vispo to hand, so you can also add PGs. So we'll go through the Dragon Empire cards and the lyrical, and we'll save the Dark States one for the next deck, which is Beni. Aizawa Ema. So blast 2, draw, and you bind one of your opponent's rear guards. If you did not bind, your opponent chooses 2 cards from their drop and binds them. And at the end of the battle, it attacked, CB1, discard a card, stand this unit, and it gets drive -1. If your opponent's bind zone has 10 or more cards, or you persona row this turn, it gets a crit. Kogara Toto. If your Vanguard is a Vispo, it gets all the following. If your Vanguard is grade 3, you can pay the cost with energy instead of CB. Search your deck or drop for Let's Charge Together Gonzalez. So it's the chicken or bird or chick. Call it to a rear guard in the same column as this unit, and then when your grade 3 Vanguard attacks, if you have Gonzalez in the same column, this unit gets +5. So the chicken puts them back to soul. So on place, your opponent chooses a card from their drop and binds it. And at the end of the battle, this unit boosted. Kogara Toto. Put 2 rear guards in the same column as this unit into soul, and choose one of your opponent's rear guards and bind it. And if you did not bind a card, your opponent chooses 2 cards from rear drop and binds them. The lyrical one will be looking at this since there was no Shinomiya in the top 16 of both blocks. Same cost, and then search your deck for Poyaneko. So it's the cat, and put it in the same column as this unit, and when this unit is boosted by Poyaneko, and if you played an order this turn, it gets +5, and if you have 2 or more orders this turn, counter charge. If you played 2 or more orders this turn, counter charge. So you won't be able to use the skill. Then Poyaneko gets 5,000 shield, and at the end of battle it boosted Kagasumire. Put them to soul and get a normal order from your drop and add it to your hand. This is the order, so you can recycle the order. Next up we have is Beni. Their team did really well, both from block B. The first list came first, and then the next list came second. So we have 2 variations. The first one is pure Vispo build, so pretty much the same as the Ema list, running 4 of the grade 2s, and you're running the grade 1s, and still running the order for POT this time. So we don't have to look at the grade 2s for Dragon Empire and Lyrical anymore, since we did it the previous deck. We already read it, so we'll just go through Beni. Yakumo Beni. At the beginning of your battle phase, all of your opponent's Vanguard gets -5 until end of turn for every 5 cards in your soul. If your soul has 10 or more, choose one of your opponent's rear guards and you may put it into soul. On attack CB1, perform all of the following according to the number of cards in your soul. 4 or more, you call one from your soul. 9 or more, you get +1 drive, and 13 or more, this gets a crit. When I first read this skill before, I already know it's gonna be good when you go first. Well, as long as you reach the conditions. But I don't know how well the player performed, but this deck seems really good. Kurumi Noah, same cost. You can pay with energy instead of CV if your Vanguard is grade 3. And then search your deck or drop for Roro. This is the bear. And in the same column. And then if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, your soul has 2 or more, Roro, this gets +10. Pretty big. 20k. And then on place, choose a card from drop, put it in the soul. And at the end of the battle, this boosted Kurumi Noah, put them both to soul and draw. So really good just because of the draw. The next build is Dark States, running 3 of the Kiegra, I think. Chie, yeah. And then 4 Pandemonium Tactics, 4 Gongram. So you just, and then 4 of the grade 1 from set 3. So you just want to achieve the condition as fast as possible. And that's the last deck. That's it for this video. Thank you for watching.